Hello everyone and welcome to my session Manage Identity and Access in Microsoft Entra ID. My name is Uros Babic. I am currently in position security architect in Crayon company, but I am also Microsoft certified trainer in SAMS education. The scope of my presentation is actually how we identify and access in Azure Active Directory or Entra ID, and we will discuss about actually how we create resources in Entra ID, because that is actually a challenge. Entra ID is the core of any secure solution you will build in Microsoft Azure, and you will need to know how verify who is accessing your system, for example, what they have access to, and monitor how you're using your solution. And you can create users, groups, administrative units, configure access to the resters, to system to be passwordless, and you can define the strategy for your using Azure Active Directory and Azure domain services to look down access for your solutions. We will discuss about the hybrid identity and identity protection, Entra ID privilege identity management, and finally with enterprise governance. Okay, we can start the first part of session today. We have actually a lot of features with Entra ID and Active Directory domain service, how we compare traditional on-premise environment with Entra ID in the cloud, how we deal with the roles, domain services, users and groups. I mentioned you can create users groups and administrative units to securely access resources and services, and also configure access to system to be passwordless. And you can also define the strategy to lock down access for your solution. And the first slide define actually comparison between two domains. The first is Entra ID Features in traditional on-premise environment. Actually, Entra ID is Microsoft multi-tenant cloud-based solutions and directory and identity management services. And for IT admin's perspective, Entra ID provides a user-friendly solution to give employees and business partners, for example, single sign-on for thousands of users or global software as a service application like Office 365, Dropbox, Salesforce. But for application developer perspective, Entra ID focus on building application by making them fast and simple to integrate with the world-class identity management solution used by thousands of millions of organizations around the world. And you have actually identity managed capability and integration, because Entra ID includes the full suite of identity management capability, including multi-factor authentication, device registration, self-service password management, group management, privileged account management, role-based access control, monitoring, alerting, etc. And that is that actually help secure cloud-based solutions, cut costs, help assure corporate compliance goals are met. And additionally, Entra ID can be integrated with existing Windows Server Active Directory, giving organization the ability to leverage of existing on-premise identity investments to manage access for any cloud-based software as a service solution, for example. This is actually how we understand the simple connection, self-service, and single sign-on. That is advantage, and we will discuss during this session a lot of advantage where we compare traditional Active Directory environment with Entra ID. The next slide is actually very good and clear picture comparison how we understand the classic on-premise environment, because Entra ID is different from Active Directory domain services. Firstly, it has many similarity, but also many differences. It is important to realize that using Entra ID is different from deploying, for example, Active Directory domain controller on Azure virtual machine and adding it in your premise domain. Identity solution, for example, application using now HTTP or HTTPS communication. Communication protocol. Communication protocol, what means? Because Active Directory is HTTP or HTTPS based, doesn't not use Kerberos authentication. Instead, use this protocol such SAML, Federation, OpenID, for example, Connect for authentication, OAuth for authorization, and authentication services include SLML, OpenID, Federation service. With the Active Directory Federation service on Microsoft Azure, you can build many third-party services, for example, Facebook. And flag structure. What means flag structure? Azure Active Directory use and groups are created with the flag structure, and there are no organization units or group policy object like from traditional on-premise environment. And that is actually how we compare this solution. I also mentioned in Entra ID you have include the federation service, but here we have in traditional Active Directory domain service environment, we have actually group policy. And that is actually how we understand with the point of view comparison Entra ID versions and Active Directory domain service. The next slide actually describe how we investigate the role in Entra ID using, you can designate limited administrator to manage identity tasks in less privileged roles. Administrator can be assigned for propose and adding, changing users, administrative role. Default user permission can be changed only in user setting in Azure Active Directory. And we can define, for example, I can share my screen and go back now in Entra ID. And when I click Entra ID, I have an option, for example, for my users and go in my account and I can go in my assigning role. And I mentioned actually with the point of view subscription, role assignment, I'm global administrator, I am a conditional access administrator, security administrator, I can read security information and report you have for all of this role description. with resource name, type of resource assignment path, and what is the type that is a built-in role. And actually, I can go in assignment, and I have actually all of different role, and I can add, for example, for my job propose application developer role, and actually that is actually now successfully add assignment for my account. And the base of role assignment, when I go in my subscription model, I have read for my different subscription models and different type of role. For resources group, I have, for example, sentinel responder role or playbook operation role for my role-based access control. That is totally different when we're talking about Active Directory role. But we will see during actually this session about comparison and everything what we discussed. I'm global administrator. I can manage all aspects of Microsoft Entra ID here with this type of role, and that is very important to use Microsoft Entra ID identity in many situations, and with point of view privileged identity management, I can activate this role for 8 hours. I'm support for my service desk for my clients and everything, and that is very important to understand. But we will discuss about privileged identity management role later, actually. And the next slide describe this actually what I show and discuss about global reader, billing administrator, security administrator, global administrator, and etc. But that is the role regarding Entra ID. And we have actually Azure Active Directory domain services. That is important to understand, and you can deploy Entra ID directory domain services to provide domain join group policy, lightware directory access protocol, LDAP, Kerberos and NTLM authentication to fully compatible with the Windows Server Active Directory. And you can use this domain service without need to deploy, to manage, to patch domain controller in the cloud. Because Azure Active Directory domain service, that is actually integrated with your existing environment, existing Azure Active Directory tenant, which make it possible for users to sign in using some existing credential, for example. And Active Directory domain service replicate this identity information from Entra ID, so it works with the Azure Active Directory tenants that are cloud only or synchronized with on-premise Active Directory domain service. If you have existing on-premise, for example, Active Directory domain service environment, you can synchronize user account information to provide consistent identity for users, or for cloud-only environments. You don't need traditional on-premise Active Directory domain service to use central identity service for Azure, for example, Active Directory domain service. And actually, what is the benefit? The benefit actually is simplified deployment experience, NTLM and Kerberos authentication with support of NTLM and Kerberos. You can deploy application to rely on Windows integrated authentication. High availability, of course, because include multiple domain controllers, provide high availability for managed domains. And in region, you have support for Azure availability zones, and this domain controller is also distributed across zones to additional some resiliency. And corporate credential password integrated with actually Azure Active Directory and etc. And you can create users, you can create groups. Every user you need access to restors needs for your account, and I can go back in my Azure Active Directory and click Entra ID and go in users. And you can see now different users. And I click for my account. I have user principal name, group members application, assign roles, assign license, and identity. I am member. I have object ID, I have user principal name and everything. And I can create some users, for example. I can create new users or invite external users. I can go in my principal name, for example, John Smith, display name. For example, I can auto-generate password or manually. Account enable in the properties. I have the first and the last name here. John Smith, job title, company name, employee ID. I can add manager, street ID, city, and I can use location, for example, my location, Serbia. And assignment with some group. I can previously define security admin group for these users and add some role. Because that is security guy in organization, I can define a security administrator for this type of users, and very simple review and create users in Entra ID. And sometime you don't see in the meantime, but definitely you can refresh your Entra ID in Azure portal, and actually you can see your user. That's John Smith here. I previously created with and you can see the user principal name. That is very important information in object ID. And I mentioned group member. Group member is security admin. When I go in the group, you can see a lot of different groups like developers, junior admins, security admins, senior admins, service desk. And I can click here and define security or Microsoft 365 groups. Give the group name, for example, Microsoft 365. With the group mail and the group description. For example, Microsoft 365. Actually, all the job relating with this Microsoft 365 operation. Who is the owner of this group? That is John Smith. Okay, and the members, I can select some members, Joseph Price, for example. And I can create this in very, very simple way, this group. I can zoom my screen in order to better view, see my work. Okay. And when I go back in my slide, that is actually what we'll discuss during this demo. Limiting access in Entra ID restores to only users who need access is one of the challenge and security principle of zero trust. We will discuss in the next part of session today about zero trust and advantage and everything. Okay, I'm in the next slide, and we will discuss actually now about administrative unit. That is also Entra ID resources, but can be container. Okay, but actually administrative units restrict permission in the role to any portion in your organization that you define. You can simply use administrative units to delegate some help desk administrator role to regional support specialist. You can manage users only in the region they support, and there is a place for that. Very simple. Here I can go now in Microsoft ID, and I have actually in the manage plan I have administrative units, and I can define the name of administrative unit, enter description, assign the role, and actually review and create in very simple way. I can use Microsoft Entra ID portal for that purpose, but I can use PowerShell or Microsoft Graph in that purpose, or Microsoft 365 Admin Center and admin unit members, so actually users and groups. The next challenge is very important: how we implement, how we understand passwordless authentication. Sign in without ever using password. With passwordless, password is replaced with something you have plus something you are or something you know. Okay, and you can use, for example, Windows Hello for Business for that purpose with biometric face of fingerprinting or device-specific PIN. And with the Hello for Business, biometric and credential is directly tied to user PC, prevent access from anyone other the owner. And you can use FIDO, security key, generally stored in USB stick. Key is unphishable standard-based passwordless authentication method. Microsoft Authenticator app is famous because this feature is in day-to-day operation tool for your Android or iOS phone into the strong passwordless credential. Video smart cards, of course, so you can use this new method and everything related where we're talking about actually or temporary access pass, time limited passcode allows you to set security key and Microsoft Authenticator with need to use much less know your password and everything. What is the benefit actually? How we increase security? I can reduce with passwordless risk of phishing or password spray attack by removing password from attack surface. That is very easy explanation. Better user experience. You can give users a way to access from anywhere. Provide easy access for application and services such Outlook, OneDrive, Office, while mobile, and everything. And I can show you also license models. I can go here in the license and all products, and you can try, for example, Microsoft Entra ID P2 or free trial licenses, and I can go in my different subscription to show you this option. I can go in license and all product, and you can see I have licenses from Mobility Secure E5 or Entra ID P2. That is very important for conditional access policy and when you create Azure policy and everything. And you can see my account, and I can go in assign and assign the users actually for that propose. What is assign option? That is multi-factor authentication, Microsoft Defender for cloud apps, P1 and P2, Microsoft Entra ID. And very, very easy. I previously assigned, but never mind this now. This license actually assigned. And when I go in Microsoft Entra ID and users and click my account, I can see assigning license here for my account. That is actually advantage. How we will review Active Directory licenses and tenants and deal with the licenses. You have different type of license. For example, free Microsoft 365 apps, premium P1, premium P2, free edition include Azure subscription, premium include Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, Open Volume License Program, Cloud Solution Providers Program, etc. Actually, with the P2, you have option also for identity protection and governance and conditional access, but you have limit access with the conditional access, limit your work, but with identity protection and governance, you don't have this option in P1. That is difference where you have cooperation with P2, Microsoft Entra ID. You have option for identity protection additionally and identity governance. Okay, we can start now with hybrid identity. We have a lot of feature with Entra ID Connect, like Connect Cloud synchronization, authentication options, and everything. Password hash synchronization. I will describe password hash synchronization, Active Directory Federation service, pass-through authentication, federation with Entra ID, what is decision-free, on how we describe password, right, like backend, or what is proposed, this feature in hybrid identity. The first slide, actually, Entra ID Connect. I have possibility to connect for my traditional on-premise environment with Active Directory, with Active Entra ID Connect, or Azure Active Directory Connect with my Entra ID in the cloud. And that is easy to understand. I can synchronize with a single sign-on my user's device and provide identity for resources in the cloud like Office 365, Azure Software as a Service application, and that is a several authentication option to enable hybrid identity. Hybrid identity is actually a process to connect your on-premise Active Directory with Azure Active Directory to this to enable single account to have access to resources on-premise and in the cloud. You can select the best authentication options, connect your on-premise Active Directory in your Azure Active Directory. And alternative method to integration, you can use Entra ID Cloud Provision again for that purpose, or run standalone or alongside Entra ID Connect for that purpose. And you have a different option for integration, password hash synchronization, Password hash synchronization, that is a signing method. You can synchronize hash of users for on-premise Active Directory password with the Entra ID. Pass-through authentication, that is the next, that is a signing method that allows users to use the same passwords on-premise and in the cloud. Actually, federation integration is optional part, but can be used to configure hybrid environment using on-premise Active Directory federation service infrastructure. Synchronization, that is responsible for creating some users groups or other objects, making sure the identity information for your on-premise environment is matching in the cloud. This synchronization include also password hash, and you can use health monitoring, also monitoring to provide central location for Azure portal to view some activity. And I previously described this signing method to synchronize the hash of users for your on-premise Active Directory password with the Azure Active Directory. And that is a very, very good feature to use to synchronize users' password for on-premise environment instance to the cloud, and to sign Azure Active Directory services like Microsoft 365, Microsoft Intune, Active Directory domain services. You can sign service by using the same password used to sign in your on-premise Active Directory instance. You can improve productivity for your users. You can reduce your help desk cost. And it is important to understand that the same sign-in, not the single sign. The user still authenticates against two separate directory services. This solution provides a simple alternative of Active Directory Federation service implementation. And we have pass-through authentication. That is alternative method of Azure Active Directory password hash authentication. Provide the same benefit of cloud authentication to organization, allows user to sign into both on-premise and cloud-based application using the same user account and passwords. When users sign in using Active Directory, pass-through authentication validates users' password directly against organization on-premise Active Directory. What is the benefit for this option? For example, multi-forest environment are support if there are forest trust between Active Directory forest and the name suffix routing is correctly configured. You can enable this option with Azure Active Directory Connect. You can install multiple agents, provide high availability for assigning requests. Signing username can be either on-premise default username, that is user principal name actually, and another attribute configured in Azure Active Directory Connect. And of course, with a lot of advantage. And you can deploy federation. Finally, that is collection of domains. You have established trust. A level of trust may vary, but typically include some authentication, and almost always includes authorization. Typical federation include number of organizations have established trust and share access to set resources, and you can integrate it Active Directory Federation service like corporative identity provided with your existing on-premise Active Directory, and synchronize with the Connect for cloud option in Microsoft Azure. If you decide this option, you can optionally set a password hash synchronization as a backup in case Active Directory Federation service fails in some reason. and you can define decision free. The first decision for your organization is wants to move in the cloud. Okay, but after that is actually the question of authentication method, because it is a critical component of your organization. All other advanced security for user experience features in the Microsoft Entra ID. And you have authentication methods. That is cloud authentication. When you choose for authentication methods, you can use hands-off authentication process. For example, actually to separate trust authentication systems such on-premise, Active Directory, Federation service to validate user password. And you can, with cloud authentication, you choose two options: password cache synchronization and pass-through authentication. Signing features, not natively support, but you can use, for example, Active Directory can handle signing users without relying on on-premise component to verify password or identity protection. For requires password hash synchronization signing method, you choose to provide users with link credential support. And you can configure password right back. Finally, having the cloud-based password REST utility, it is great, but most companies still have on-premise directory, and that is a tricky. How does Microsoft support keeping traditional on-premise Active Directory with domain service in synchronized with the password change in the cloud? And password write back is feature enabling with Azure ID Connect. That is allows password change in the cloud to be written back on-premise directory in real time, and you have enforcement for your on-premise Active Directory domain service password policy, zero delay feedback, support password changes from access panel of Microsoft 365. Doesn't require any inbound firewall rules, but to use self password as you have already configured Active Directory connecting your environment. Doesn't require any inbound firewalls. You can, all communication is onbound, is over actually for free port, because password right back use Azure Service Bus relay as underlying communication channel, for example. Okay. We'll go back now with the Entra ID identity protection. Why is it important? Also, with the more and more feature, identity protection is great tool that allows organization to automate detection and remediation of identity-based risk, investigate risk using in the portal with identity management option, export risk detection data to third-party utility for further analysis, and you can create an access review to check how each identity is being used. For example, you can configure a conditional access policy for user behavior, sign partners, control and manage access to resources with conditional access policy on machine, and you can use Azure policy for specific region based of your subscription model and etc. And we can discuss now with this feature. The first is how we understand this option. You can use multi-factor authentication registration policy. You can use user risk remediation policy and sign-in risk policy. And where is that in the portal? I can go now in Microsoft Entra ID and actually security and identity protection. And you can use different options using risk policy. I include, for example, my users. For my users fully risk low and above and require the password change to low access. I can use signing risk policy for remediation task. I can include also my user for medium and above option and access for required to multi-factor authentication and enable this policy. I can use Microsoft authentication registration policy for all users or specific users to enable for example, I can define the policy for or include some users in group for this policy. That is very amazing feature, and you can configure risk even detection users with a leaked credential, for example, or signing for anonymous IP address, or impossible traffic for a typical location and unfamiliar location, and etc. And you have prerequisite, you must have a P2 edition for detection and P1 edition for advanced detection for such unfamiliar signing properties. And that is how we understand this option when we discuss about identity protection and actually signing risk policy. You can define user risk policy. I mentioned here when I show you to user sign in to automatically respond based on specific user level to provide condition here low threshold to greater security, and I can define the risk users with risk history and details about detection and confirm user compromise, for example, with incident investigation. A location, when configure location as a condition, I can choose to include some excluded location. I mentioned here you can include, but also exclude some user for this option. And for the client apps, I can use the browser, I can use mobile application, and the risky signing with device application location information and everything. And I can deploy multi-factor authentication when I go, for example, in Microsoft Entra ID and security, and I can see option in the Manage tab, multi-factor authentication. I can click additional cloud-based authentication options. I can sign with my credential, and you can see two tabs actually. The first is users and service settings. When I go in users, I can see my users, and I can manage user settings to require to delete all existing application password generated by selected user and restore multi-factor. Or I can enable here multi-factor authentication. When I go back in service settings tab, I can choose different option for with my phone mobile application to notify to verification code for text message with the Microsoft Authenticator and set. That is traditional option how we understand Azure Active Directory multi-factor authentication, because that is helps safeguard access to data and everything for application by making simplicity for your users and everything. And that is option what I describe: user risk policy, signing risk policy with risk level, and finally multi-factor authentication concept. Something you know, I have password. Something you have, I have phone. Something you are, I can use biometric options, for example. And I can enable, I showed you previously in the lab, with two tabs, users and service state settings, how I can enable, and when I log in with these users, I can testing multi-factor authentication, and I have additional authenticate for my users. And that is in settings option with account code, fraud alert, notification, phone call, settings provider, and everything. Conditional access policy in the next topics. That is very, very important to create actually conditional access policy. The old world of security behind is corporate firewall, okay? But you can secure network perimeter with people wanting to work from anywhere, with their be connected to sort of cloud application. Conditional access is very important because that is a tool used in Entra ID to bring things together, to make decisions, to enforce organization policies. Conditional access is the heart of new identity-driven control plan. And actually, that is a next generation policy to build in the cloud. It is possible to consider massive amount of data and everything, and you can define based of your users and location, application, risk, time, options and device, and I can verify every access attempt with zero trust model and allow test accessing my resources would require MFA or block success. And actually, I can use my laptop or mobile phone. I provide two-step authentication, and I can enforce control to access based on specific condition when this happens, when do this with the access control. And where is the place for that? I can go in Entra ID and actually conditional access policy, security and conditional access policy, and I can create some conditional access policy, for example, for my users. I can select users of groups and define users, target resources. I can select some application that is multi-factor Microsoft admin portal. For example, I can define condition sign-in risk that is yes and low, for user risk, for sign-in risk that is a medium. Device platform, I can include Windows, Mac or Linux, my devices, and location I can define or any location or select specific location to support Microsoft Authentication Trust IP. Client application for example, for my browsers and mobile app and filter for device, I can define as filter for device. And I can define to enable this policy or report only in order, okay, I must either to grant session or specific session. I can define some control, okay, require multi-factors authentication, use conditional access control in order to report this and create this conditional access policy in very, very easy way. And in dashboard, you can see this policy. When I click your conditional access, I can view policy and go in my conditional access policy what I previously created. Okay. It is very, very easy to understand. Access review, you can evaluate West user access, you can track your review and compliance, you can evaluate role assignment, administrative user, premium P1, P2 is a license for global admin. With this point of view, and you can go in access review here in security, and I can go here in identity protection, but it is generally how we understand this option. I can go in portal and select identity governance. And when I select the identity governance, I have option for access review, and I can define here. I previously defined some access review. I am owner, group, access review period of time, scope, who is the reviewer with the description and the recurrence type. But you can go with the new review and select for your teams and groups and application. You can select teams and groups, Microsoft Teams and groups, and I can define the reviewer that is group owner or can manage of users, duration 3 days, that is weekly. I can go in settings and if you don't respond, no change, I can select for approval users. I am approval and just review name, access review, and for example, my name with description, and actually I create new access review. That is very important to understand actually this process. Why is it important? New employee join. How you to ensure they have right access to be productive. People move teams to lead the company, excessive rights to lead to audit findings, onboarding process. You must proactively change in the resource solvers and everything. That is how we understand actually this option. And zero trust model assume branch and verify for each request through organization for open networks. That is actually how we understand zero trust in modern worlds. Migration zero trust model provides some improvement of security of conventional network-based approach. Zero trust model required signals, informed decision policy to make access decision, informs capability to implement this decision in an effective way, and I can define signal for my informed decision. Zero trust consider, and I can define decision based of organization policy and of policy across resources. And you have defined 3 pillars for that purpose. Actually, that is very explicit. A user less privileged access in just in time or just enough access, risk-based adaptive policy, or assume breach to minimize radius of breach and prevent lateral movement for segmentic access for network user device and everything. And you have recommend Entra ID privilege identity management as a service to help protect privilege account with optimal, advanced, and traditional option. And you can use time-based approach based for activation privilege users. So I can define for my virtual machine some contribution virtual machine role for 3 hours for my RDP or SSH port to have access, to minimize some exposure public internet for attacker. I can create also network security group for that purpose. I can use multi-factor authentication and everything. And I have used Entra identity roles, Azure resource for that purpose also, and actually that is how we understand when we deploy Active Directory privilege identity management with these key PIM features and configure privileged identity management scopes for your roles, for your resources role, like owner, user access administrator, like contribution I mentioned previously. But Active Directory role is something different. That is not role-based access control. That is global admin or exchange admin or security admin. That is totally different. And the global administrator is first user who enables PIM. I can enable, for example, here in my Microsoft Privileged Access Management, I can define my role and my active assignment, and you can see I can go in my actually go and activate or deactivate this role. I can define some in Entra ID. I can request or approve requests for specific role in my organization. I can request for global administrator for some period of time. Actually, that is activate now, but I can limit for some period of time right out, for example. I can go and create some role in that propose for specific period of time, and I can go in my request to see that, and based on my resources, I can see in my management group subscription resource group resources, I can see in this option, and I can activate my role with eligible assignment, and after that I can go in my active assignment when you define period of time, date, actually schedule assignment for this type of privileged identity management role and everything. And I can be global administrator, privileged role administrator, password administrator, service administrator, what I decide regarding my role. And that is, I mentioned activation, assignment, and after that I have notification settings. I can define the plan, I can assign, activate, approve, and audit role. And finally is enterprise governance. I can define different model, share responsibility model from that propose. I can define the responsibility always retained by the customers. Responsibility varies on the service type, trust in the cloud. I can define the software as a service option, platform as a service option, infrastructure as a service option, because it is important to understand the vision of responsibility based on your data and points account and access management and everything. And security is a challenge. And under resource function, cloud security enables security to shift some responsibility, use cloud intelligence for that. I can use Azure resource management deployment service for Microsoft Azure, and to connect for other services, and use portal, PowerShell, CLA, or for SD, and software development kit to connect with my Azure resources manager base, manager group, subscription resources group. I can different management group for production development, quality assurance. I can define the subscription for all of these resources group, and I can define the Azure policy as a service to allow resources group, virtual machine, SQ, allow location, require the tag and value. Azure backup should be enabled for my virtual machine, for example, and I can define based on my security principle, role definition, assignment, and scope. Actually, Azure role-based access control right management based on my management group, subscription, resource group, and resources. And this is very, very good approach to understand how we deal with the Azure role-based access control. I can define Entry ID admin role with my tenant, but that is totally different when we're talking about role-based access control. I can use owner contribution reader and user access admin for that purpose based on my subscription resource group and resource. I can create my Azure account for that purpose for my role. And when you compare Azure policy with the role-based access control, that is different, because role-based access control manage who can access to Azure resource, what area do you have success. But Azure policy focus on resource properties during deployment and your already existing resources. And when you go in actually policy, I can use some assignment. I can assign policy based on my subscription. Policy definition, I can define a different type of policy. For example, Azure Kubernetes, with my description, I previously defined my subscription with parameter effect, then or disable audit remediation, non-compliance message, advanced parameter options, and everything. And I can assign policy, or I can view all definition, my policy description based on category, and I can define policy rule that is some JSON format. Actually, how we understand, because policy is a great solution to focus on resource properties during deployment and already existing resource here, and that is important to understand. And I have built some role like owner contribution reader, user access administrator, and I can finally resource look based on my resources group for read-only to prevent any change of the resource, for incident deletion or modification, and for the end I can show you this option in the portal. For example, I can go in some resource in my different account, and when I go in my account, I can go in my resources group, and I can go in my center resources group and click here, type the log. You can choose different option. When I add log, for a delete. For example, I don't know, delete, to prevent delete modification, I can click here to activate, and when I try to delete my Sentinel resources group and click copy paste here and try to read, I have message notification that is manage log for review everything relating the resources log, everything. Actually, that is all for my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, everything, and see you in the next session or event. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. Bye bye.